Awesome. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I know that this particular workshop was really high demand. Our last workshop was awesome. We got a ton of really great feedback on, and so this is going to be covering how to manage your time, but also, Ruth, do you want to explain the stress part about that as well? And actually, this would be a really great time to go ahead and introduce yourself, what we kind of covered last time, and then what we want to cover tonight.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So today we were going to cover on time and stress management because, believe it or not, they do go hand in hand. And last week we spoke about time management and the mental health factor that plays into time management and everything that goes along with it. But just a brief introduction for those who don't know me. Again, my name is Ruth. I am a mother of 2 children, a 6-year-old whom I homeschool, and a 1-year-old, 15-month-old who drives me insane. So I don't have any childcare, and it's very difficult trying to manage both my 6-year-old and my 1-year-old, on top of running an accessories business. And did I say I was a wife? Because I am. And I'm also a student at Kenzie Academy. And in about 8 days, I'm going to be getting my front-end certificate. And I'm very excited about that because I started without ever coding. I started without ever writing a string of code. And to go from there to actually being a Kenzie Academy student coach right now for our Q1 is all kinds of amazing and quite humbling to say the least. Now I hear that a lot, Jamira, that I no longer have any excuses. Everybody who encounters me says that. Victor, did you have a question? I saw his hand was raised.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. You're good.
Okay. So yeah, okay, no, you're fine. So it is true. People say a lot that they don't longer have excuses. Now I'm going to share a little bit more. I'm very private, but I'm going to share a little bit more about my journey so that you can just see how full my hands are. A few years ago, I used to work in emergency management, and a few years ago, I worked for the local city where we lived in. I worked in the finance department as a utility specialist, and I had to leave the workforce because I got extremely sick. I have shared before my journey that 10 years ago, I had been diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I went through radiation, and that was pretty much, it was cured. Fast forward 10 years later, well, 7 to 8 years later, I start blacking out. I lose my motor skills like I would be just in the house and I'm talking with my husband and I would just fall for no reason. And so I was suffering from debilitating migraines. We went to the doctor and they found that I have 3 brain tumors, 1 sitting on my ocular nerve and 2 sitting in the recesses, way in there. And so at first they thought it was MS because I am losing my motor skills, but after further testing, they found it was not. So right now I am currently I'm still under the care of a neurologist. Recently I had a severe medical setback and I had been on bed rest for the past 2 weeks and I'm being pumped full of medication and the medication was reacting with my stomach, so I got diverticulitis. And so I'm dealing with the the health issues and the diverticulitis pops up. And so on top of all of that, I still homeschool my son. I still go to school every single day. I have not missed a class and I still coach. I will coach while I'm laying down, but I will coach. And so it is that is not to share to brag. It is just that I share that to say with everything that is on my plate, I have an end goal. I have a vision, and I keep my eyes on the prize. I am very intentional with where I want to go. And the legacy that I want to leave for my children will not allow me to sit back and make any excuses. I refuse to make any excuses. And I am very, if anybody, my husband says this all the time, if anybody has an excuse to sit back and say, I'm not going to do it, I have that excuse. But I refuse to, because I know that my story is going to push somebody else to propel them into their success, to propel them into their future. And if I just sit back and be comfortable with not moving or doing anything with my life, I am doing a great disservice to somebody else, a young Black girl in East Africa, Kenya, who will see me and will recognize my accent and say, hey, I recognize that girl. I want to be just like her. And if I sit back and wallow in self-pity in my room and say, oh, I am so sick, I'm doing such a great disservice to my sister who's following behind me. So I think I rambled on for too long, but that's just a little bit of my story and why I do what I do. Any questions so far?
No, but I would definitely love to add to that. So that kind of builds upon a couple of the topics that we definitely covered in the last workshop. And one of them was having that intentionality. And when you have a why that strongly, I can feel, the passion and kind of like the raw, like the sheer determination to make sure that there's no room for excuses, right? To continue going beyond all doubt, right? And just consistently doing the things that need to be done and finding a way. There's no room for like limiting yourself. And Ruth just has, this like sort of like aura of power, right? That feels like kind of superhuman. And what I want you all to realize, right, is that you can make your whys just as strong, right? And so that actually goes and kind of dictates, in my kind of experience, emphasizing each second that you spend and like what you do with your time is definitely going to feeds into the why, it feeds into that clarity, it feeds into the intentionality that you actually end up using to kind of fuel your time management and like what you feel about your stress and like whether or not those things are actual stressors, because a lot of the time it's really just you battling your own self-talk. And so Ruth, that was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing, and I think that is a very great start to this time management and stress workshop. So
thank
awesome.
You. So just based on that little snippet of my life, I think you would understand why I'm so stringent with my time management, and also I am not without stress. Funny story. I was sitting here preparing for the workshop, and I hear my son scream, "Oh, Mwamba!" Mwamba is my daughter's name. And I get up and I go look. First of all, I see little black footprints everywhere in the house. I go to my studio and my daughter has spilled charcoal everywhere and has made little steps. And I told my husband, I was like, how's that for stress management? How am I gonna handle that? But that is my everyday life. Like I will be in the zone. I am coding. I am handling the homeschool, and this little girl will throw a monkey wrench in my day, and I have to figure out how I'm going to unwrap myself out of that to keep on with my day. But that's basically stress management. So I will first dish out my question to you guys. For you, what does stress management mean to you? Anybody, you can put it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Anybody?
I don't think I'm muted. Doesn't say I'm muted.
No.
Oh no, go ahead.
I think stress management to me is being able to function properly, right? So ideally, if your stress is at a level where you can't get out of bed, you can't brush your teeth, you're missing meals, you're not sleeping properly, right? Like these are all normal, literally things that you need to survive and function properly as a human being. At the end of the day, our bodies are just machines made out of bioorganic materials, right? So you're not giving your body those things that it needs in order to survive and function properly, then you're in a state that you kind of put yourself in. So stress management is realizing that, okay, I'm not taking care of myself, I'm working backwards here. So I need to take a step back, I need to breathe, meditate, go inside myself a little bit to see why am I not doing regular humanly things in order to make sure, like, okay, well, once I get this down packed, then I can go back to doing my job or seeing my friends or, whatever that looks like for you.
Would you call that stress or would you call that depression? Because if you get to a point where you are not functioning because, sometimes you can function with stress. Now, added stressors like consistent exposure to stress, and that is negative stress. So distress would lead to depression. So what you're describing, would you consider that stress or depression?
I see how you want to I see the distinction because I was a psychology major, right? Like I know the definition of a mental illness is not being able to function, but I see stress as, and maybe this is my own like hypotheses and whatever life things coming out at this point, but I see stress as more than that. I see stress as a disease, really, in a way, sometimes, because a lot of people think I can function with this, right? A lot of people think I'm just a little stressed out and I'm okay. And a little stress actually helps performance to a certain extent. But a lot of people don't know where that line is, and it's a fine line.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. The important thing is that you're able to realize where your line is, because my line is not going to be the same as your line. It's not going to be the same as Victor's line or, everyone's different. But it's important to be able to realize in yourself, like, I'm not doing things to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm at a point where this is not working in order to allow me to be, I keep wanting to say functional, but I feel like that's counterintuitive at this point. But
no, you can say it. Because I hear what you're saying. We can follow along with what you mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think touching off of that, as she said, the stressors, being able to distinguish that's the good stress from the bad stress, the motivational stressing factors in everyday life, from that very razor thin line of letting it become this abundant stress that builds upon each other that could become potentially disease or illness causing. And when you manage it in a way, and perhaps it's micromanaging, but when you are able to distinguish the smaller details to it, like, why is this stressing me out? How can I approach it in this manner? What would best remedy this, as opposed to, if I do this, will it make it worse? I'm sort of going off in both directions, but I think recognizing good stress from bad stress, motivational stress from debilitating stress is very keen in managing not just time, but your physical body, your emotional mindset, your spiritual mind, things of all that, of all aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've both touched on it. Stress is a part of everybody's life, and there's good stress, because stress is not always bad. it can be a motivator, and then there's bad stress, and like that would lead to high levels of stress, and then subsequently lose interest in physical activity and become inactive and withdrawn from daily activities. So I have another question. How often do you feel stressed? Is it often, seldom, or sometimes? Anybody else get in the chat or share?
I'll jump in. Mine's pretty moderate. It's just like, I'm a huge like germaphobe. So when a pandemic hits, I'm just like, okay, no, we need to buckle down, and like, I'm big on the distance thing. And so that's a stressor for me. And I mean, everybody's family is going to stress them out to a certain extent, but you know, got to remind yourself, family's family. That's what they're there for, to build your character. Yeah, just distinguishing the two.
Okay, and how? So I'll concentrate on you, Richard, because you answered. How do you know you're stressed? Is it a physical manifestation, or?
Yeah, I think it definitely takes on a physical manifestation first for me. Just a quickening of my heart rate. I can feel my skin getting flushed. You know, just, it could be maybe 66 degrees in the house, and I feel like my body temperature just spikes, like just inclines. You know, things of that, just the physiological aspect of it, I think, is something to definitely pay attention to. And when I was reading today's day 12 challenge, they were saying, you know, not to get frustrated on a certain approach, but, you know, taking the time, even if you know what you're looking at, you're going to feel stressors about it. And I think it's very relatable to like physical stressors, mental stressors, and yeah, spiritual stressors as well.
I hear you. Do you have a way that you handle the stress? The stress, is it positive, or do you have positive coping mechanisms when you're stressed out?
Yeah, I go outside for a breather. You know, tea is an amazing thing. Water. I actually have mala beads, prayer beads, little strip, like, just to sort of keep myself calm. You know, find strength in your faith. Find strength in nature, in your community. You know, like he said, this is where I want to say class one, where we have the World Wide Web at our disposal. We have an expanse of knowledge that we can tap into at any given moment. And if you're feeling stressed out, there's absolutely this avenue, that avenue, this avenue, whichever avenue you choose to go down, you can find a remedy. And hopefully you do so for the better.
This is true. So you touched on a few of the taking charge of stress, that a few tips that I had for taking charge of stress. And the first one that I wanted to cover was, I don't know if y'all know, but no is a complete sentence. You can say no. A lot of times now, I've mentioned a few times that my schedule is very, very full. And especially if it is a person that I care about, or if it is something that I care about and I'm passionate about, sometimes I feel bad. Most of the time, I feel very guilty, and I feel very bad about saying. I feel very bad about saying no. But I have come to learn that no is a complete sentence, and it is not the end of the world to say no. To my children, especially my older one, who's a little bit more understanding, I used to feel really guilty to saying no to him, because I felt like because I have been so sickly for so long, I take so much away from him. But in many instances, I have learned to say, if I don't say no, I say not right now. And I will always avail myself, but it is okay to say no. When you start this coding journey, there'll be many opportunities presented to you. People will want you to go out, people will want you to, volunteer for something, which is a noble cause. But when you're starting a new journey and you're going into coding, you will need all the time in the world to learn this new skill. It's okay to say no. I'm like, I will, you know, I want that social interaction with you, and it is important. But for right now, I want to concentrate on learning how to code. I want to concentrate on building my network in the web development community, or in the software engineering community, or in the UX community, just so I can have time for you in the future. Saying no or not now doesn't mean it is completely canceled. Apologize. My daughter is, if you hear somebody screaming, she's on one today. But yeah, no is a complete sentence. It is okay to share your responsibilities, be it at work or at home. Now, I think y'all have picked up on I'm very hands-on, so I can be a little bit controlling. I can be a lot of bit controlling, let me be honest. So I need things in my scope of control. And I very quickly realized, with everything that is on my plate, if I do not relinquish some of that control, I will absolutely drive myself insane. And I started seeing that, because the anxiety and the panic attacks came forth from me wanting to control everything, me wanting to protect my children, me wanting to give them the world, and it became a lot. And so when that happened, even my time management skills, you know, fell apart, because I'm trying to do everything, and there's only 24 hours in the day. And even though I feel like sometimes I want to be super mom, or, you know, superwoman, and I can do it all, and I'm taking care of my mom, and I'm doing, you know, I'm taking care of my aging parents, and I'm doing all of these things, I couldn't do it by myself. I have been fortunate that I have a partner, and I have an involved partner. He is a hands-on dad, and he's a hands-on husband. He is very much so present and involved in our lives, and that has been it has been a breath of fresh air, and it has also been very instrumental in me also doing all of these things that I do. I'm able to do it because I have a partner. Some people are not fortunate to have that. And I recognize that there are a lot of single moms out there and single dads, and my hat's off to you, because I don't know how I would do this alone. I probably would do it, but I would probably be the meanest single person on earth, because I will be forever overwhelmed. So I am grateful that I have a partner. And in terms of school, when I am coding, I also have my study buddies who I go to, and I tell them, yeah, I need your help with this. I can't handle this on my own. Could you help me do X, Y, Z? And you will always find people who are willing to help you. People with the right heart will always be willing to help you. Now, not everybody is like that, obviously, but you will recognize very quickly who is in your corner and who isn't. Those people who are in your corner, lift them up just like they're lifting you up, because those people are few and far between. And so it sounds weird to say, but, you know, take advantage of that. Take advantage of the relationships that you form and forge while you're going through this journey, because those are the people who are going to pull you up when you're down. And there are so many other ones that I'm going to share because we're short on time. But the last one that I'm going to share now is take charge of your time. So last week we covered how I handle my time management, and that is I'm a lister. So when you take charge of your time, I would implore you to organize your time, make schedules that are realistic. That is very important. You have to be realistic. You would want to put things there that you're not able to do. Like, for example, for me, because my day is so full, my children have a set bedtime. If we go past that bedtime, I am of no use to anybody. I am of no use to anybody, and but I am also aware that there are times when we will go over the allotted bedtime, and I have to make adjustments based on that. I have to be realistic with the fact that children are very, they march to the beat of their own drum. And so sometimes they will govern how we respond in the household, and there's nothing I can do about that. So it is important to organize your time, make lists, especially when you start to code. You will very quickly find yourself going into rabbit holes. And rabbit holes are very, very dangerous in your coding journey, because the more you go in there, the more you are stressing yourself out, and there's no stopping. So it's good to set time limits and stick to them. Don't just start. When I started with JavaScript, I would start learning objects, and then all of a sudden I'm in high function array methods, and then I'm in arrow functions, and it's like I would overwhelm myself. And then by the end of the night, I'm like, I'm so dumb, I don't get this. Why don't I get this? But it's because I have overwhelmed myself by not adhering to the time limits that I have set for myself. So any questions so far before we move on?
I don't have a question, but I agree with the rabbit hole thing, because sometimes I can, be on a mission to learn one thing, and then something else will come up that I didn't know about. And then I'm like, well, I need to know this already. And I put pressure on myself that's unnecessary, because I can't learn something in 10 minutes. So then I stress myself out because I don't know. And then either I find something, a resource that someone told me about, and I'm like, how did I know this already? So I'm stressing myself out for not knowing things too soon. So that is something I need to work on for sure. And I'm glad you said that, because that's definitely relatable.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the rabbit hole, I found it, I went into, same thing. Oh, I don't know this, then I would go and start researching that. And then I would lose, focus on time, and then I would have to like recalibrate, and that would just take an entirely long time, and I was of no use to anyone. What are some of the strategies for saving time do you guys employ in your lives?
What do you mean by saving time?
I use the Pomodoro technique, the 25-minute timing. I put 25 minutes, and then I try to study something for 25 minutes without distraction, and then I go back again.
Oh, like the Pomodoro that we're talking about last week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just time saving, like with physical activity, or like setting an alarm, and then when the alarm goes off, go or stop what you're doing. Having a friend or family member meet you at a regular time. I have one of my colleagues at Kenzie, who we just have time where we commiserate, and it'll be right after class, like at 3, and we'll sit there and we'll commiserate. It's helpful that she's a psychologist, so I can go and I'll cry. The day was so hard, and it'll be free therapy for me. And that has been actually very helpful in just having that 5-minute break, where I have somebody who is in the same journey with myself and is also a mom and a wife, and we have so much in common, just commiserating over the craziness that we have embarked on the last 6 months has been very helpful. And then we spoke about this last week, saving time with getting ready the previous night. Those people who lay out their clothes in the at night, so that when they wake up in the morning, it's just up and go. I do the same thing. I will plan my day, and I will speak with my son and tell him that the lessons that we have for the next day, so that when we wake up in the morning, it's not me hounding him. Hey, you need to do this XYZ. He knows exactly what he needs to do at what time. So things like that is what I was talking about in terms of of saving. The last thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to stressors and time management and stressors is self-care. Self-care is a buzzword now. You know, we hear it often. And can anyone tell me what we think that self-care means? You can put it in the chat.
Guys, I'm looking. All right, so I guess I can chime in on this one. Self-care is it's kind of an extension of self-love, right? And so it's basically like you parenting yourself. And the reason why I say that is because basically you're making yourself do things that you know you don't want to do, but that you know are good for you. And the reason being, for an example, right? Say like there's a really, you know, delicious looking chocolate bar that's just sitting right across from me, right? It's like has ice cream, like scoops and s'mores and all of it, right? All of it. And your first instinct is like, wow, that looks great. I really want to devour that right now. But what self-care is essentially, it's parenting yourself. Your body is, or your mind is basically telling you like, hey, I love you. I don't want you to eat that chocolate bar because you know how, you know, sugar like messes up like your body, right? It does all of these terrible things to you. I love you, so I'm not going to let you do that. And basically what parents do to their kids is, I love you so much, I don't want you to like put your hand on that fire, right? Because that's not good for you, or this or that, right? And there's all these different little like 5-second decisions that essentially like you have to be the parent of yourself as you're walking through and like life and doing all of these things. Like, hey, you shouldn't be spending like those 3 hours scrolling through Instagram like you have, or Facebook or Twitter, right? Like you have this time for yourself. I love you, so I'm gonna make sure that you're doing this in a way that actually like benefits you. So that's what I would say self-care is.
Yeah, pretty much. It's important to take good care of your body, mind, and soul every day. And I love the answers that everybody's given in the chat, because it's pretty much the same thing. You know, taking time for yourself, as Judith said, Victor says, you know, taking care of yourself, like mental, physical, emotional well-being. Derek, being mindful of what needs to be done, contrary to what wants to be done. And then the physical, emotional care. And those are all very, very good answers. Taking time to do things for your own self-preservation. And that's basically it. It's basically self-preservation. And self-care is more than just putting those Korean masks and then sitting there. It's great. I do that every night because my skin will never let me be great. But it's more than that. It is, I take account on the things that are going on with myself, with my body. The struggle of being, you know, not physically well for a very long time, it takes a toll on your body, and you have to be very mindful of everything that you ingest, you know, both spiritually, mentally, and physically, and the things you also put out. And so learning how to eat right, reducing stress, like we've been talking about. Melvin says this all the time, exercising regularly, taking care of your physical body will also help you very much so in your mental and emotional health. Being intentional basically with taking care of your physical body also translates to your physical. And then taking the time out when you need it. We often fail at self-care because, like for me, I tend to put everybody else first. And my psychology friends and my therapist tell me all the time, you cannot you cannot pour from an empty cup. And the more you give and give and give and give and give and give and give, and you're not taking time to replenish yourself, the more you're doing a disservice to those you love. Because if you're doing all of these things, like I'm going to boot camp, I'm starting a new career, just so I can provide better for my children. If I put myself in a precarious situation where I actually fail at taking care of myself physically, then I'll be a burden to them, because now they in turn, or my husband will have in turn to take care of me instead of doing the things that he needs to be doing. And so self-care is very important, especially when you're going through this journey, because I will not lie to you, you will get overwhelmed. That is a given fact, especially if you are starting out. This is all very new information. This is all very, it can be very challenging. For some, it is very hard. And there are moments where, like for me, who has always been at the top of my class, I have always been top 5% in my class, and I've always been very proud of the fact that I'm quite intelligent. I pick up languages like it's nothing. I mean, Judith, you're Kenyan, right?
Yeah.
So languages are they're kind of easy for us. So it was like I could pick up languages. I am self-taught. I'm currently learning Spanish and Korean. So that's on top of all the other languages that I do. So it's nothing for me to pick up languages. I started JavaScript and I was like, what is this? What is this? I mean, what are these words? Individually, they make sense. Together, stringing them together doesn't make sense. I for sure thought that I was losing brain cells. I thought for sure I'm getting dumb. I need to get checked. There's something wrong with me. And I had to take a step back. That feeling of being overwhelmed, that feeling of doubting your intelligence can be very, very off-putting. It can be very discouraging. And so I had to adapt proper self-care techniques. Now, some of them I fail at. For example, adequate sleep. I'm an insomniac, and so I force myself many times. My husband was laughing at me. I was like, you have a problem with your phone. You need to put down your phone and put it away and get adequate sleep. And I will tell you this, if I don't get sleep, I will miss that semicolon that will change everything in my code. And I will be staring at my computer for 5 hours and I will never, ever, 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 ever get it. But if I go to sleep or I walk away or I do something else, I find that, the answer comes easily for me. So it's something that I need to work on. I'm terrible with sleep. But that is a self-care technique that is not frowned upon, but we neglect it, but it is very important. My Q1 instructor used to say it all the time. You need to get sleep. Don't think that you can code for 12 hours and you'll be productive. Get as much sleep as you can. What did you say? Naps is that greater than, less than insomnia? What is that?
Greater.
Yeah, naps are better. I take naps frequently throughout the day.
Really? I wish
Yeah.
I could. I wish I could. My day is so full that I miss naps. When my mom used to make me lay down for a nap, I should go and give her kisses, because now I can't. And it's terrible. But other methods, I'll run quickly through self-care techniques that you can apply. So you make your sleep a part of your self-care routine. Take care of yourself by taking care of your gut, because if you have stomach issues, everything else is, many medical practitioners believe that if you have stomach issues, then it impacts your overall well-being, and that it cascades into either positive or negative outcomes. Exercise daily as part of your self-care routine. Now, if you have physical challenges, meditation can take place, like yoga can take place as a workout. routine. You eat right for self-care. I know that burger looks good, but a salad will take you all the way. Um, like I mentioned before, no is a complete sentence. So say no to others and say yes to your self-care. Take a self-care trip. Well, now we're indoors, so save that for later. But you can actually go on a virtual trip. And I personally love watching those food videos on YouTube, like street food. There's this guy called Mark Weens. I watch him because he travels all over the world, and I live vicariously through him with him going and testing all those. I can't do that because my stomach will not allow me, but I take a virtual trip with him everywhere he goes. Go outside, take a break and go outside. For me, who is in Florida, go outside and smell the swamp air. For you guys who are elsewhere, just go outside and take a deep breath. I do gardening. Of late, I've been painting. We moved, so in the mornings, first thing in the morning after I meditate, I go outside and I paint my house, and that has been very therapeutic. There's getting a pet to help with your self-care if you're not allergic. Pets have been known to be very helpful for people with, for example, our veterans who have PTSD. Pets have been quite helpful in dealing with, benefiting those individuals working daily with animals. And then getting organized, managing your time, which we insist on, setting lists, adhering to those lists, going through your day in sections, seeing how many hours you spend doing an individual activity. And you can cook for yourself at home. Right now, we're being forced to cook at home. So it's a good practice to look up recipes and cook something. Read a book on self-care, for self-care, and schedule your self-care time and guard that time with everything you have. Now, that's one of the things that I do because I am so busy. I have days where it is mandatory for me. I take, even if it is 5 minutes a day, as soon as my husband gets home, I know he's tired and I should do better. But as soon as he gets home, I tell him, take your children. And I go and I get 5 minutes of Ruth time where I decompress, where the children have stressed me out so bad all day and I've been coding and all of these things. And I take 5 minutes where that actually really felt good just now. I just breathe in and breathe out, and then I reset and I recharge and I tackle the rest of the day. So actually, based on I had actually an exercise that I wanted us to do, and I created a time management worksheet. So I posted it on the beginners forum. I will share my screen to show you what I'm talking about. And if you guys can go download it or just, you can copy it or download it and take a look at it and
I'll drop the link in the chat. I'll drop the link in the chat.
You got it. Hold on. Do that. Copy link. Done. I'm done. Go away. Where's my chat? Did my chat disappear? Where's my chat? Hold on. Oh, here it is. It's late. I'm sorry, y'all.
I shared it. We're
Oh,
good.
you did? Okay. Never mind.
Oh, is it the same one?
Yeah, same one. Yeah, it's the same one.
Thank you.
So anyway, if you can, I also included it I did the time management forum. I posted it on the time management forum. and I'll add more stuff that we were working on today. But if you can fill out the every day, we'll talk about it the next time management workshop we have. But just gauge how many hours you're and be honest with the sleep. Be honest with yourself. This is for you. All of these things, what you're doing. So food related could be, going shopping, cooking, ordering food, whatever it is. Food related, how many hours you spend doing that. Physical activity includes working out, doing gardening, painting your house or whatever. Household tasks, cleaning, picking up after yourself and all of that. Social time. Right now, how many hours you spend on the internet, on social media, talking to friends and all of that. Sedentary activity, that includes just watching TV, reading a book, not doing anything really. And your community, how you spend your time in the community, voluntary service, picking up trash in your neighborhood or neighborhood watch or whatever. And then now for work, that's where you're going to put the hours you code. If you can put how many hours you are coding. Oh, I sent the right one. So go with the one that I have, and it's also it's in the time management. It's in the beginners forum under time management under my name. And then there's only 24 hours, so you can't go past 24 hours. So I don't want to see numbers like 12 for all of them because they will not total to 24 hours. And that's about it. Any questions? Comments?
I have something to add for folks that want help with tracking their time. So I actually did this like a couple of months ago. You can actually go, hold on, I'm gonna grab the URL for this. But if you go and you search up in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, I'm gonna drop this URL right here. So this tool is called Toggle, and it's a free tool. All you got to do is like insert certain things that you want to track, but essentially it's a time tracker. So you just press this button, and the time tracker will just keep going until you press the button again for a different project or whatever it is. You can use this just to kind of log your time over the next couple of days to give you an idea of where your time is going. One thing that's really powerful about the document that Ruth set up is it's kind of like when you're logging your food. It's not really about logging the calories in, calories out, like all of these different things. It's really just being more intentional about the foods that you are actually eating. So the exercise of actually just being more mindful of what you're actually consuming every single day gives you a better idea of like, oh, like I should probably eat more of these or less of that, or like I'm always eating at this time or whatever. So this Toggle app can help you guys just keep track of those times, help you fill out that table, and then that'll kind of give you a better idea of like where your time is actually going. Because sometimes we have an idea of like more or less where our time's going, and you actually kind of don't. And when you do have kind of that profound realization that like, holy crap, like I'm spending so much time doing all of these different things when I should be spending more time doing X, Y, Z, right? And so huge proponent of that. I'm really excited to see what you all come up with for next time. I think you're muted there, Ruth.
I totally am. I'm so used to doing that because of class. Any questions, comments? If you want to reach out privately, I will tell you, yes, I know I said I am busy, but I have made it my life goal to always avail myself if you need me. Now, there are those who have asked me questions on Career Karma and I have not responded yet. I've been sick, so I haven't been as on top of it as I usually am. So I apologize if I didn't ignore you. I saw the message, but I will get back to you. I promise. Judith, I know I didn't answer you. I promise you I will answer you. But I'm always available. Send me a message. If I don't respond immediately, it is with good reason. I honestly am not ignoring you, but I will avail myself to you. I do not have a wealth of knowledge, but I have a little bit of experience. I have a little bit of experience, and I am willing to share this journey with you. If you even just need to talk and you need a listening ear because you know this journey is overwhelming and you want to cry, I will avail myself. My Zoom, I have a permanent Zoom room, is always available, and I will avail myself to you. If you need any tips or tricks on how to manage your day, again, I will avail myself to you. It's not always easy to share in a public forum, and there's so many snippets of it that I am missing out. But the more we do this and the more you realize that, first of all, me sharing about my personal journey is not to show how superhuman I am, because I am not infallible, but it is to show you that there is another human being out there who has been able to do the journey, has been able to be fairly successful at it. And it is very difficult. I'm not going to lie. It is very difficult. I have been reduced to tears many, many, many times. But the good book says that a righteous man, you know, it's not a, it's, I'm paraphrasing, but though he falls seven times he gets back up again. So it is not about you failing. It is not about you being overwhelmed. It is what you do with those feelings. It is not about the stress. It is how you respond to the stress. Do you take that stress and wallow in self-pity? Or like my good sis said earlier, you know, you stay in bed and you get overwhelmed and all of that? Or do you take that opportunity and turn that around, that situation, and with good intent, turn it around and make it for good? Briefly, I shared it in the leaders and in my HTML squad. I shared my journey. Last year, the beginning of last year, this is just a quick story and then I'll stop. The beginning of last year, 2019, on my vision board, I randomly put that I want to be a software engineer. I don't know why I put that. I wasn't even having issues with my business in that, you know, creating a website or not. I arbitrarily just put, I want to be a software engineer, and then I forgot about it. Fast forward 6 months, I run into Career Karma randomly. And at that point, when I was running into Career Karma, is when I had actually said, I want to learn how to code and I want to build my own website. And then I want to extend the same grace to other business owners, especially women of color. I want to build their websites for free, just so, you know, they can save money while they're starting their businesses. And I started to become, I started the journey, the 21-day challenge. I was going through serious financial issues because of my health. And so I couldn't start my coding boot camp until October. And when I started my coding journey, I hadn't written a string of code then. In 8 days, I'm going to be getting my front-end certificate. I was intentional. That is what I want y'all to get. I was intentional. When I wrote, even without realizing, when I wrote it in my vision board and I was sharing with my husband, I was like, I showed it to him. I found it randomly and I was like, wait a minute, I wrote this the beginning of 2019. And here I am a year and some months later, and I'm going to be a software engineer. So be intentional, lead with that, clarify what your intent is. And let me tell you, the doors that are going to open for you, because you will have that, you will have that dogged determination to fulfill that dream that you have. It will not let you go. Time management is gonna come to you. It's not gonna be easy, but it's gonna be doable. And that's all I wanted to share with you guys.
I absolutely love that. Everything that you just shared is incredibly valuable. Guys, what do you all think? share some of your thoughts. Unmute yourselves. What do you have to share with Ruth?
Super motivated now. Like, I don't even know what I'm about to do. I just feel like so energized. Yeah, I just have a new focus. I feel like I have like an accountability partner almost now, because I know that I'm gonna have to kind of hold myself accountable, and I feel accountable to you guys as well, to kind of hold myself accountable. If that makes sense. Because this shouldn't be wasted. I shouldn't just hear this and not take it into action. So I feel super empowered. I'm about to meditate after this.
I just want to say something. Oh, Judith, you go ahead. Judith, you go ahead.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Ruth. I've been inspired. I'm starting the journey, and I just got accepted into Kenzie the other day. I was still debating on whether to start. And before you, we had another speaker who was, what I got from there was like, just take the risk. And from your experience, I'm just learning how to manage my time. I'm gonna take your experience as an example. If you were able to do it, I will be able to do it if I push myself. And I'm grateful to Career Karma, to everybody that is here. Like, everybody is willing to help. And from where I come from, or when you're new in this country and you don't know anybody that can help you, and you have people who are willing to help you, and you're getting such resources from everybody, it's helping. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And you know, you're my sis. You got this. You got this. You. We got each other. We're here. Yeah. We here.
I also wanted to say something. First off, thank you to both of you, Ruth and Melvin, for sharing all that you have, and everyone that's in this Zoom call for all your comments and input. I had no idea that I was going to start this journey, towards software engineering this year. I stumbled upon Career Karma back in December and did a bit of research on a couple coding boot camps, and I'm starting at Kenzie Academy in 2 weeks, and I'm really excited about that. So I completed my income share agreement. Now, me personally, I have no coding experience, none whatsoever. I am doing the pre-course work right now. I'm terrified but excited at the same time, because this is a completely different field that I've ever been a part of. But I wanted to touch on something that you said, Ruth, earlier, how you wrote down how you were wanted to be a software engineer out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Well, 10 years or 12 years ago, when I was still a sophomore in high school, the Navy came to my school and they handed out a brochure. And at the time, I looked in it, they had a computer science engineering program. And I looked at that and I said, well, if I do decide to join the Navy, that's what I want to do. I want to be a software engineer. Well, I didn't decide to take that route. And, over a decade later, here I am, like it's all just coming full force, And I've always been interested in computers, and I just want to really just make sure what I'm doing is having an impact, and make sure I'm knowledgeable in everything that I'm learning. And I need to be held accountable, because for so long I haven't been held accountable. And like, I've been terrible with discipline and time management. So these Zoom calls are really beneficial, I think, for everyone on Career Karma. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to thank all of you guys for being on this call.
Thank you. Thank you. Take it a day at a time. You've made the first and most important step. And I was there where you are October 22nd. I didn't code October 22nd. I started coding October 23rd. I say that all the time and people think I'm joking, but I was so overwhelmed on the 22nd that I didn't code until the next day. So you've made a very important step, and you got this. And if you need an accountability partner, Jamira, you too. I'm a good hounder. I will hound you until the cows come home. But I'm very proud of you. You've made a very important step. Just keep at it. Take deep breaths, and you got this.
All right. Do we have any other parting words before we close this out? All right. So yeah, I think this goes ahead and concludes our workshop tonight. Ruth, this was amazing. This was incredible. There was a lot of really awesome insights, and always just jam-packed with these valuable gems. This will be available on YouTube recording, so you guys can go ahead and rewind, pause on the parts that you guys found really, really interesting, take the notes, make sure that you remember everything and execute, right? Because at the end of the day, like, all of these wonderful things have been shared, but it's kind of meaningless if you don't take it and actually run with it, right? Implement it. And I would love to hear all of your, different things that you're doing on discussions. I'm going to be there. I know Ruth's going to be there. It actually makes it a lot easier for us to manage conversations. And so we'd love to start like a little thread and just like have the fam in there, just like sharing like their, updates. So yeah, let's get at it. And I hope you all, gained 1% better today towards your time management. I know that this is a long journey, and it's like what Ruth said, it's one step at a time. It's one day after the other. So everyone has to start one way or another. So I appreciate you all spending this 1 hour with us, and this is a huge investment towards your futures. So all good signs all around. Thank you all for joining us. And Ruth, thank you again for sharing your wisdom.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to see all of you guys filling out that Google Doc and then taking like a screenshot or something and throwing it on discussions. Let's get these.
Yeah, if you can add it onto the one that the time management one with the Google Doc, and then you do the screenshot. Yeah,
go ahead and like insert your URL so we can go look at it and say what's up. Cool. I'll see you guys there.
All right.
Bye. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
All right. All right.